The dining table was set like every Sunday, roast beef, mashed potatoes, and that same fake warmth my family always served on the side. My brother Eric was late, as usual. My mom chuckled, he's always running behind, poor thing works so hard. I bit my tongue. Eric hadn't held a job for more than 6 months at a time, but somehow he was still the golden child. Just as I took a bite, my dad cleared his throat and said the words that froze the air. "We've decided to give the apartment to your brother," he said, pulling a small ring of keys from his pocket and sliding them across the table. My fork clinked against the plate. My mom smiled like it was no big deal. Eric finally walked in right on cue, grinning, completely unaware of the storm he just walked into. I stared at the keys, then at them. "You're giving him the apartment?" Dad nodded like he was being generous. "Well, you've got your job. Your life's stable. He needs this more. He's going through a lot." And that's when I let it out, not with yelling, not with drama, but with calm, cold clarity. "Then he can handle the $10,000 in repairs I paid for last year." The room went quiet. My brother blinked. My mom blinked. And then, they laughed. All three of them. "Come on," Eric said, chuckling. "You're so dramatic. That was just small stuff, some plumbing and a new water heater, right? Small stuff. 10 grand, and 3 months of weekends crawling under sinks and dealing with mold." I had paid every cent from my own pocket, thinking we were building something together. But that night, as they toasted Eric and talked about what he'd do with his new place, I saw everything clearly. I wasn't part of their plan, I never had been. I was just the backup generator. The fixer. The guy who kept things running while they played favorites. I nodded along at dinner. Smiled when they asked me to take a picture of Eric holding the keys. But inside, something snapped. They had made their choice. So I made mine. They thought I'd keep paying. They thought I'd keep showing up, fixing the broken pipes, answering every call when the Wi-Fi went down. But they had just given him the keys. And I was about to hand them the bills. It wasn't just about the apartment. This was years in the making. Growing up, I always did the right thing. I studied hard, got good grades, helped around the house. When the furnace broke in the middle of a snowstorm, I was the one outside in freezing wind helping my dad patch it up. When my mom had surgery, I took off work to drive her to every appointment. Eric? He was the baby. Always in trouble. Always needing a little help. Even when he wrecked Dad's old Chevy after sneaking out, they just shook their heads and said, "He's young. He'll learn." He never did. But somehow, I was the one expected to be okay with it all. Every birthday, every Christmas, he got the better gift. I got socks. He got a new phone. I got a card with a $10 bill inside. It's done, sure. But I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself being responsible was its own reward. That someday, they'd see what I did for them. That someday never came. Last year, when the apartment started falling apart, my parents asked me for a favor. They didn't have the money to fix it, and Eric was going through too much to be bothered. So I stepped in. I took out a personal loan to fix the busted pipes, the faulty wiring, the mold that spread across the back wall. I even repainted it, by hand. Alone. Weekends, late nights, even took time off work. Mom called me her angel. Dad said, "You're saving the family's future." And then, in one dinner, they handed that future over to Eric. Like I was a temp worker. Like I was just passing through. What hurt the most wasn't the apartment. It was the way they didn't even flinch. Like all I'd done, my time, my sweat, my money, meant nothing. I didn't speak to them for a few days after that dinner. Let the calls go to voicemail. Let the group chat pile up with messages from my mom asking if I was over it yet. She even added a little laughing emoji once. That stung more than I expected. It wasn't just a joke. It was a slap in the face. That's when I started digging through my emails, receipts, and autopay settings. That's when I remembered just how many things were in my name. Gas. Water. Electric. Internet. Even the building's monthly service plan. All of it under me. They had gotten so used to me fixing everything, they forgot who held the switch. Eric might have gotten the keys, but the power? That was still mine. I still remember sitting at my laptop late one night, staring at the autopay dashboard. My hand hovered over the cancel button for a moment. Then I clicked. One by one. Gas. Water. Electric. Internet. Done. I wasn't doing it to be cruel. I was doing it because they needed to know, actions have consequences. And sometimes, the quiet ones, the ones you overlook, the ones you use, those are the ones you should have never underestimated. I didn't scream. I didn't argue. I just stepped back and let them feel what life was like, without me holding it all together. And that was just the beginning. It started with the water. 2 days after I canceled the autopay, Eric called me at 7:30 in the morning. "Hey," he said, clearly annoyed. "There's no hot water in the apartment." I waited a second. Then replied, "Oh? That's strange. You might want to call the utility company." He paused. "Wait, weren't you the one who always handled that stuff?" I smiled. "Not anymore. You've got the keys now, remember?" He mumbled something and hung up. Later that day, my mom texted me. "Can you please just help him with the water? It's not that serious." I didn't reply. The next day, the gas went out. Apparently, they didn't realize how quickly things would fall apart. I got another call, this time from Dad. "The stove won't work. And your brother says the heater's out too. Can you check the account?" "Sorry," I said, "but everything's in his name now, right? He'll have to call and sort it out." "But, he doesn't know how to do all that." "That's not really my problem anymore." Click. The best part? I didn't have to lift a finger. I didn't scream or shout. I just unplugged the machine I'd been quietly powering for years, and watched it stall. By the end of the week, the internet was shut off. No Netflix. No email. No video calls. My brother drove to my house, banging on the door, shouting through the glass. "You've gotta fix this." They gave me the apartment, not the bills. I opened the door just enough to say, "Exactly." And shut it again. I heard from a neighbor that they had to call in a handyman who overcharged them double for a plumbing fix I could have done in 10 minutes. The heat stayed off for 2 more days before they figured out who to contact. And the internet? That took a week and a $200 reconnection fee. None of it came easy. They were flailing. Suddenly, all the invisible work I'd done for years became visible. Every little thing I'd quietly managed behind the scenes? It stopped. And when it stopped, so did their comfort. Eric tried to act tough, but I could hear the frustration in his voice each time he left a voicemail. My mom? She stopped sending emojis. My dad? Radio silence. And me? I was finally breathing. For once, I didn't feel like a background character in my own life. I felt like I mattered. Like I had drawn a line and stuck to it. I wasn't being cruel. I was simply stepping away. Letting them live in the world they created when they decided I was disposable. And that silence from them? It was the sweetest peace I'd ever known. By the end of the second week, they were unraveling. Eric looked rough when I saw him at the grocery store. His shirt was wrinkled, and he had that look on his face, the kind of look you get when you haven't slept well in days and your patience is running thin. He tried to ignore me, but I could feel his eyes burning into my back near the dairy aisle. I didn't say a word. He wouldn't dare ask me for help, not in public. Pride wouldn't let him. But the weight he'd taken on was clearly more than he could carry. And the worst part for him? Everyone thought he had it all figured out. He was the successful brother. The one who got handed the apartment like a trophy. But now, he was standing in line with a frozen dinner and a prepaid phone card because he couldn't figure out how to reconnect the Wi-Fi. I got a text from Dad later that day. "We never expected you to walk away like this." I read it twice. Did they expect me to just keep running things silently behind the scenes while they handed over everything I built to someone else? They didn't even ask. Didn't thank me. They just gave it all away at a dinner table like it was a party favor. And now they were shocked I didn't stick around to sweep the floors afterward? My response was short. Exactly. No anger. No explanation. Just a mirror held up to the choices they made. They tried to recover, of course. My mom sent over a casserole. Lasagna. Her go-to when she was trying to patch things up. I didn't open the foil tray. I left it on the porch for 2 days until it got cold and crusty. Just like the way she treated me. Then came the email. This time from Eric. A long-winded guilt trip. "You know I didn't ask for this. I didn't even know Dad was going to hand me the keys. It wasn't my decision. I thought you were fine with it." Fine with it? Did I look fine when I sat at that dinner table in silence, watching my own sweat and sacrifice get tossed across to him like a football? Was I supposed to smile and say congratulations when they brushed off the $10,000 I had poured into that apartment just to keep it standing? I didn't respond. I let him sit with that silence the same way I sat with their decision. A week later, the building manager called me. Apparently, my name was still listed as a point of contact on the emergency maintenance list. He asked if I wanted to be removed. "Yes," I said. "Please do." He paused. "You sure? You've been on here for almost 7 years." "I'm sure." Click. That's when it really hit me. I had become their emergency contact in every way. Financially. Emotionally. Logistically. I was the fix-it person. The one they turned to when the roof leaked, when the heating broke, when the internet went down. The one who handled the taxes and fought with customer service and got the garbage pickup scheduled. And when they didn't need me anymore, they passed me over like I never mattered. So now? They could handle it. Let the stress pile up. Let the calls come in. Let the sink stay clogged and the windows stay drafty. I wasn't the janitor of their lives anymore. They were on their own. And as strange as it felt to be cut out, I finally realized I wasn't cut out for being used. By the 3rd week, they finally stopped pretending they had it under control. The first sign? My dad called me. Not a text. Not an email. A real phone call, something he hadn't done in months. The same man who looked me straight in the eye and said, "We're giving the apartment to your brother," was now calling me at 8:42 p.m. on a Tuesday like he suddenly remembered I existed. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. His voice sounded tired, older, almost. He tried to keep it casual, but I could hear the hesitation behind every word. "Hey, just wondering if we could talk. It's not about anything serious. Just, maybe we should grab a coffee or something. I think there are some things we need to clear up." Clear up? Was that his way of saying we messed up? I let the message sit for a full day. Then I forwarded it to my email and deleted it from my phone. I didn't need reminders. I needed space. And still, more signs followed. My mom sent a card in the mail. A real Hallmark card. Inside was a handwritten note, her signature cursive looping softly across the page. "I miss how things used to be. We may have made some decisions that hurt you, but please know we love you very much." Love? Funny how that word shows up once the Wi-Fi cuts off and the bills start rolling in. Eric, for his part, finally stopped playing the victim. I got an email from him that was different from the rest. No guilt, no excuses. Just one line. "You were right. I wasn't ready." I read that line over and over again. It didn't fix anything. But it was the first honest thing he'd said since that night at dinner. Truth is, I didn't need apologies. Not anymore. I didn't need them to grovel or beg. What I needed was for them to feel it. The pressure. The confusion. The weight I'd carried all those years. And now, for the first time, they were. The utilities were still down. They were having to go to neighbors' houses to shower, work at cafes for internet, and use prepaid phones when the landline was cut. Their world had been run by my quiet labor, and now that I was gone, their world was crumbling in slow motion. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about revelation. They were learning what life looked like without me making it easier. And in that silence, without confrontation or arguments, they began to realize who really held the weight in the family. And who finally decided to put it down. It was a Wednesday morning when I got the knock on my door. I wasn't expecting anyone, and I certainly wasn't expecting my father, looking worn, disheveled, and oddly humble. Behind him stood my mom, her arms crossed, holding a thick stack of unopened bills. Even Eric was there, lingering behind like a guilty shadow, unable to make eye contact. "Can we come in?" my dad asked, voice low. I didn't say yes. I just stepped aside and let them walk into the apartment I was now renting across town, modest, clean, but mine. No shared walls with ungrateful family. No leaking ceilings I had to fix myself. Just peace. They sat at my kitchen table like strangers. My mom finally broke the silence. "Everything's falling apart." I just raised an eyebrow. "Oh. The water hasn't worked in 4 days," she said, eyes flickering. "Eric couldn't fix it. The electric bill is overdue, and the gas company won't even take partial payments anymore. The internet is gone, we can't even reach your Aunt Marla for help. She's traveling." My dad shifted in his seat. "Look, we didn't mean to push you away." "You didn't push me," I said, cool and even. "You erased me." That landed hard. I could see it in my father's face. His eyes blinked slower. His mouth opened slightly, then closed again. No words. "You passed the apartment to Eric like I was a ghost," I continued. "Like the $10,000 I spent last year fixing it meant nothing. You didn't even ask. You made a decision about my work, my money, my life, and handed it off like spare keys at a party." My mother sniffled. "We thought you'd understand." "No," I replied. "You thought I'd stay quiet. Like always." And then I reached into the drawer beside me and pulled out a manila folder. Inside were copies of every auto payment I'd canceled: electricity, water, internet, gas, even garbage pickup. I laid them on the table in a neat, silent row. "I handled all of this for years," I said, voice steady. "You never even saw the charges. Never noticed the maintenance I covered. Never asked how the walls got painted, how the HVAC was replaced, or how the pest control showed up every 3 months. Eric finally spoke. "I didn't know." "No, you didn't," I said. "Because you were too busy enjoying the benefits of a life you didn't build." The room was quiet. Just the sound of the old fridge humming. "Why are you doing this?" my mom asked, barely above a whisper. "Because I wanted you to feel it," I said, not unkindly. "Not out of spite, but so maybe, just maybe, you'd realize what I've been carrying. Maybe next time, before you dismiss someone's contribution, you'll remember what it cost you to lose them." My dad stared at the papers. "So what happens now?" I leaned back in my chair. Now? Now Eric gets to be the man of the house. Let him make the calls. Let him figure out the overdue payments, the busted water heater, the leaking roof. Let him carry it for once. And with that, I stood up and opened the door. They knew it was time to go. One by one, they walked out, quieter than they'd ever been. No dramatic tears. No last-minute justifications. Just the weight of realization pressing down on their backs like bricks. They had taken me for granted. And now, they were paying for it, every month, every bill, every cold shower. 3 months later, I got a postcard in the mail. It was from my mom, written in careful, shaky handwriting. The front showed a faded photo of the city park near our old neighborhood. The message on the back was short, "Hope you're well. We're managing. Miss you. Mom." I placed the card on my fridge without a second thought. That was all I needed, just a small echo of the past trying to reach out. But I had no intention of going back. Because by then, my life had completely changed. I'd gotten a promotion at work, finally. I wasn't bogged down anymore, mentally or financially. No more rerouting checks to keep someone else's roof from collapsing. I could breathe. For the first time in years, I could actually exhale without feeling like it cost me something. My apartment, small but sun-filled, had become my haven. Every bill was paid with pride, by me, for me. I even started investing the money I used to pour into my parents' place. That first deposit into my own future? It felt like planting a flag. Not just in the ground, but in myself. Sometimes, I'd walk past the old apartment building. Eric was still living there. The windows were grimier now. The yard looked overgrown. The place no longer had the neat charm I'd spent years preserving. And that was okay. That was the point. They gave it to him. Let him have it. Let him live in what they believed was the prize, while I took the real win with me. Freedom. And peace. I didn't need revenge to scream. Mine was silent and satisfying. The best kind. People often think power comes from control, but sometimes, it comes from release. Letting go of the weight. Letting people deal with the consequences they once ignored. Walking away not in anger, but with understanding that you don't have to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. One Sunday afternoon, I sat on my balcony, sipping coffee and reading a book. The sun was warm on my face. There was laughter from the apartment next door, kids playing, a dog barking. And for once, none of it felt like noise. It felt like life. Normal life. No stress. No guilt. No waiting for approval or permission. Just me. My choices. My rules. That night, I wrote myself a letter, not to send, just to keep. I sealed it in an envelope and tucked it in a drawer. It said, "Thank you for walking away. Thank you for seeing your worth. For choosing peace over guilt and dignity over being used. You saved yourself, and that was enough." Sometimes, healing doesn't come with apologies or dramatic reunions. It comes when you realize you no longer need them. They made their choice. They left me out of their future. So I built my own. And the irony? Now they're the ones sitting in silence, wondering where they went wrong, while I live in a world they never thought I could reach. All because I chose myself. And I'd do it again in a heartbeat. The phone never rang. The emails kept piling up in my inbox, all unanswered. The text messages stopped after a few weeks, but the occasional voicemail still came through. Sometimes it was my dad. Other times, my mom. The guilt in their voices was palpable, but I could hear the desperation too. But the truth was, none of it mattered anymore. I had moved on. I didn't need their apologies, nor their empty promises. The only thing I needed now was the space to live freely, without the weight of their expectations. And for the first time in my life, I felt light. Free from the emotional shackles I'd carried all these years. Free from the obligation to fix their messes. They had their own lives to live now. Their consequences were their own, just like mine had once been. As the weeks passed, I stopped checking in. I stopped worrying. I even stopped looking back. And life? It was moving forward. I kept building my future, brick by brick. There was no looking over my shoulder anymore. Because sometimes, the greatest revenge isn't in what you do to others, it's in what you choose to leave behind. The things that used to haunt me, their rejection, their disregard for my sacrifices, no longer held power over me. It wasn't about winning. It was about walking away from the things that broke me, the things that made me feel small. And in that walk, I found my strength. The greatest triumph? Knowing that the future I was building, alone, by my own rules, was far better than any past they could offer. The door had closed behind them. But the one in front of me? It was wide open.